Hello everybody, it's your old pal Tuna here, and welcome back to another video. If it is your first time here on the channel, yes, hello, my name is Tuna. I am an illustrator and comic artist from Canada, and here on the channel, I share all about my life as a full-time artist. Today's video is for all of you illustrators out there. I am an illustrator, you are an illustrator, and you want to make products of your illustrations. Maybe you want to sell them at art markets or open your online shop. Maybe you've already been dabbling in some merchandise creation and you'd like to expand what you offer. And I've spent the last month compiling a list of different ideas to share with you. I have all the merchandise broken up into categories, and for each categories, we're going to come up with beginner, intermediate, and advanced ideas. So hopefully, no matter where you are on your creative journey, on your merch making journey, you'll be able to find some that work for you. I love being a commercial illustrator and being able to apply my work to all kinds of different products. I think it's all part of being an artist and challenging yourself to try new things. And speaking of challenging yourself to try new things, I'd love to introduce you to today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, and there are thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and so much more. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. I've been able to use Skillshare's cooking categories to upgrade my skills in the kitchen. There's also all kinds of amazing illustration content like composition and color theory, not to mention the business categories where I can find out more about accounting. And last but not least, you may know that I have gotten very much into doll customization as of the last 6 months or so. And did you know doll customization comes with many different skills that you need to learn in order to do so? I've actually been using Skillshare for years, and luckily they have classes on their platform about sewing, doll face painting, and doll hair rerouting. I discovered Skillshare's learning path, Learn to Sew, where I learned hand sewing basics with Bernadette Banner and how to make my own clothing with Denise Bayron. I also took Carrie Ann Carney's doll repainting step-by-step class, as well as her doll customizing rerouting doll hair class as well. I've been making the most of my summer by using Skillshare to level up these skills and spending pretty much all of my free time working on dolls. Skillshare empowered me with the ability to turn the things I wanted to do into the things that were done, and I only pricked my finger about 100 times. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Some of the products that we're going to talk about today are things that you can make at home, but we're also going to talk about products that you're going to get manufactured outside of your own apartment or house if you're lucky enough. But we're going to start with the most basic category, which is just art. In the beginner category, we have the bread and butter of any illustrator's merchandise offerings, which is prints. Prints can come in the form of postcards or posters and everything in between, and I encourage you to get creative with the types of prints that you offer. For example, I've handmade these 3D prints that have a thick piece of double-sided tape between each layer just to add a sense of dimension, or consider looking into an alternative form of printmaking like risograph or lino cut. I think it's really fun to think outside of the box, and that's kind of going to be the theme for this video. Is I'm going to give you all of my ideas, but then you can synthesize those ideas and come up with new and fresh ways to apply them to the work specifically that you do. And I'll take the chance to mention now, you are absolutely not required to do all of these. I think that would be kind of mad. So if you don't like any of these ideas, that's totally fine. You don't have to do anything. You can pick and choose and use anything that you hear me say as a jumping off point. I would call prints in general to be in the beginner category. They're very accessible. You can print them at home. You can work with a local print shop, something as simple as a Staples. You might even find services online that offer prints with an interesting finish, such as a metallic foil effect or a sparkly paper. There are ways to level up your art selling game into the intermediate and advanced categories. For intermediate, I have 2 suggestions, one of which is canvas prints. These can generally be ordered online, and it's basically printing your digital or reproduction art onto canvases, which just adds a little extra touch, and it might be something that certain collectors are looking for. My other idea is making trading cards. The only reason I call this intermediate is because it requires a little bit more of an investment into the idea. Maybe you want to dress it up with a little bit of packaging or design quite a few different cards. Again, I think the sky's the limit for something like this, so see what you can come up with. A little tip for these, I get these printed as business cards. So when you're designing your cards, design them with that business card aspect ratio in mind, and you won't have any trouble finding a printer. I'll also toss in here that I think hand embellishing your prints is kind of a fun touch. This is also sort of beginner, intermediate, a little bit of both. And that means adding things like paint finishing, maybe something like a rhinestone, that just gives your piece a hand-touched feel and can help raise the price point of selling them as well. Now, I could only think of one thing for the advanced category here. If you have any other ideas at all through the course of the video, be sure to leave them as a comment. But I wanted to introduce you to the idea of making a tarot deck, which is an incredibly huge undertaking that requires dozens of illustrations. But I think there's a certain group of people that really enjoy tarot decks, and if you feel like those people overlap with the fans of your art, it might be something worth looking into. And when it comes to funding some of these more advanced products, I would recommend turning to crowdfunding in order to do a pre-order to collect some funds before investing in the full print run. But you can actually do that for any tier of product that you want. Just gauge what makes sense for your business. Okay, we're gonna move into my favorite category now, which is stickers. I am constantly joking that I am just 1,000 stickers in a trench coat, and I have designed so many stickers and sticker sheets over the years, I can't even keep track of them all. I consider those both to be beginner products, and there are so many options that you can choose from when you are actually designing your stickers. If you do wanna make them yourself at home, you can have them printed by a print shop, print them yourself, and then either cut by hand or use a Cricut if you have access to one. There are all kinds of paper types you can order online that are compatible with your home printer, but often those are considered water resistant rather than waterproof. If you do want to up your game to waterproof stickers, these are considered vinyl stickers. There are dozens upon dozens of providers here in North America, in Europe, all over the world that you can choose based on your specific needs. And they can offer all kinds of awesome finishes like metallic or clear or glitter, even glow in the dark, and get creative about how to apply these types of effects and learn to use restraint when applying them as well. When you're designing stickers, you can also take into account the size of the stickers. You could go for everything from tiny little flake stickers to, you know, full bumper sticker size. And then there's always the option to put together sets rather than only selling them as singles. Everything I just said also applies to sticker sheets. I find sticker sheets really fun. That's one of my favorite things to design and to buy. And you can still make these at home with a Cricut. There are multiple tutorials here on YouTube you can use in order to do so. But once you get to the point that you are selling quite a few, I do recommend upgrading to a manufacturer. Speaking of bumper stickers, you can have that kind of as a separate category if you want, but there's also the phenomenon of the car peeker. This is like an ultra vinyl sticker that you stick on your car in like the window to look like it's peeking up out of the window. These have been becoming more popular these days, and they're only slightly different from a regular sticker, so just do a little bit of research about car peekers and you should be able to find a supplier near you. Let's move on to intermediate. I'll admit there are no advanced stickers that I could think of. If you can think of any advanced stickers, let me know below. But for intermediate, we are talking about washi tape. Washi tape is an amazing product that is not that inaccessible, but you do have to order generally from abroad in China for these types of products. Washi tape is really fun though. In addition to all of the different finishes that you can choose from, there's flake washi, there is stamp washi, and there is everything in between. So take a look at the manufacturers. They should have information on their website, and if you do get in touch with the manufacturer, you can always ask them for their product catalog to get a sense of what they offer. The last in my category is sticker albums, and these have been making such a resurgence in the past few years. I just love it. As a young / mid-millennial, I grew up with sticker albums, trading stickers on the playground until they got banned from my school, of course. And I love that we're bringing them back and offering people something and somewhere to store the stickers that they collect. They're a little bit on the pricey side, and I only really know of abroad places that you can buy them as well, but they're really fun if you do want to add a special something to your table that not everybody has. Or online shop. I'm always thinking conventions. The next category that I would like to introduce you to is stationery. Of course, this is an enormous category, and I feel that there are so many more ideas than what I will present to you here, but we're gonna keep things in the general paper kind of genre for this one. The first idea is notebooks. This might seem a little bit more than beginner, but frankly, it's actually very accessible to the point where you can actually make your own. If you have a long arm stapler and a cutting utensil, a knife, are you cutting your paper with a knife? You can use a guillotine to cut your paper to size. You can print your own covers and staple them together with your long arm stapler. Of course, there are also manufacturers that can make these for you all over the world, located in North America, Europe, blah, blah, blah. And the same goes for memo pads and sticky notes. And get creative when it comes to these, coming up with themes or interesting ways of using the page and informing the customer how to write on the paper. I know that sounds a little confusing, but But take, for example, these two large size paper pads that are used as weekly calendars. Printing this is exactly the same as printing anything, it's just a matter of size. I'm not entirely sure if this should have been in stationery, but we also have bookmarks in this category. This is another super accessible product that you can make at home. If you have a laminator, you can laminate them for an extra bit of zhuzh and do like Squirrel Sprout has done here and add a little tassel just to wrap it all up together. Let's move into intermediate. I'm gonna start with rubber stamps. I'm not entirely sure if there's a huge demand for rubber stamps, but I think they're pretty cute. And I think if you tap into the stationery community at all with what you do, it could be something you could look into. Next up, we're gonna talk about sketchbooks. These are something that you can make yourself, of course, with the same technique as I described before. But if you wanna get something professionally done, maybe bound, those are options as well. I know that Bailey J has some beautiful ones that have embroidered covers. Next up is these plastic clear file folders. I think these are very popular in Asia from what I've heard and less so here, but there is people who are offering them more and more, so it might be something to help you stand out in a crowd of people who make Illustrator goods. For the advanced category for stationery, I wanted to introduce you to the idea of making a custom printed book. Now let me explain. By this I mean something like an agenda or a planner. You could do something like Gabby Rose and make a recipe book, which is just the cutest thing I've ever seen. But think about the types of books that maybe you would want to purchase, maybe like a food planner. You could make a travel diary type book. Once again, truly the sky is the limit. These are just basic ideas that I want you to build on and get really creative with. Speaking of books, let's move into the books category now. I said I am a comic creator at the beginning of the video, and this is very true. While comics and books can be a huge time investment, if you have a passion for it, there is an audience for the work that you want to make. In my opinion, the beginner of this category is creating zines. A zine is kind of just a book about anything that you want. A lot of people use them to info dump. Sometimes they're kind of in the form of like a diary or a memoir. Basically any publication that combines pictures and words that isn't exactly a comic. I'm really fond of ones that are kind of like activity books that have like mazes, stuff you would find in the back of kids magazines or comics when you were little. But I've personally made ones that are sketchbook collections. I've made little info dump zines about things like dinosaurs. And then I have my cat safari zine, which is all about how to make friends with cats in your neighborhood. Zines can be made by hand, by yourself with a long arm stapler or a specific folding technique. If you look up how to make a zine, you'll probably find this folding technique online. But of course, if you do need something in bulk, you can always have them made by a local print shop. They're usually referred to as a booklet. On to the intermediate category. I am gonna put comics in intermediate because it's just my opinion that comics are so time consuming to make. But printing them is no different than printing a zine. It can be done at home by yourself or as a booklet from a local print shop. And then if you do want to do something like Be Haunted, which is a graphic novel, these can be printed en masse from China as well. You just need to have like 500 copies of it to make it worthwhile. I am down to the last box of Be Haunted in my storage, by the way, which I think is very impressive because that is a lot of books. I'm also gonna put picture books in the intermediate column. And by picture books, I do mean like books for children that are, you know, more of like a storytelling thing. Because with a zine, you don't always need to have a narrative. There doesn't need to be a plot throughout the whole thing. But with a comic and a storybook, you do sort of need to do some writing and some drawing and, you know, think about how it all goes together a little bit more. In the advanced category for books, I am going to put art books. I'm going to show you these two examples from Heikala and Sibylline Mayne, who are obviously two incredibly advanced artists, and these are professionally published books. This requires a lot of work to put together and usually a huge bulk purchase of books in order to make. And in the example of Reverie, there is a lot of instructional content as well, so that's another added layer of complexity and time and effort to put it together. But hey, I would like to see it. I will buy everyone's art book anytime I see them at a table, at a show, and I'm interested in your art style. That is the thing I'm taking home. Because I admit, my walls don't have a lot of space on them left, but my shelves, boy howdy, always more space there. Let's jump into the next category. This one's a lot of fun. Let's go with accessories. I'm gonna leave enamel metal products and acrylic products out of this particular category. We're gonna talk about those later. So for accessories, in the beginner category, we are gonna start with the accessory 101, which is the beautiful button. Oh, I have made and sold so many buttons over the course of my life, and I don't think they're as in style as they used to be, but hey, I will always have a soft spot for them. Buttons can be made by hand if you do happen to have a button press, but those can be a little expensive to buy into, so there are also suppliers in person and online where you can purchase them pre-made. They come in all sorts of different sizes, and I think that they're a great way to demo an idea for something like an enamel pin without the huge investment of buying like 100 copies of the enamel pin. If you have your own press, you can hand make a handful sample, see if people respond to them, and go from there. I think stickers and prints are a really good example of that too, for applying those ideas to something bigger and better in the future. Up next, let's go with embroidered and screen printed patches. I don't think there are enough people making patches out there, so if you want to make patches, please consider it. I get a lot of requests at my table for more, and I only have a couple designs, and I keep saying, I gotta make more, and I never do. The only downside to the embroidered patch is you do sort of need to order them in a specific amount of bulk, usually somewhere around 100, but they're very easy, so I am gonna keep them in beginner for that reason. And when it comes to screen printed patches, you are welcome to screen print them yourself, and you can also use a lino block to print with fabric-based ink. That's a much easier way to do it if you don't want to do the whole screen printing thing. Next up, lanyards. I think that these are kind of misunderstood as a more intermediate product, but they are incredibly easy and accessible. You do have to order them from abroad, but you can get them in relatively low quantities, and they're not expensive either. Don't forget that you can have long ones, short ones, all sorts of different styles, and consider pairing them with another product as an accessory add-on that you can, upsell. Last in the beginner category for accessories is magnets, another woefully underrepresented product. I know not everybody puts magnets on their fridge, but if you could see my fridge right now, you wouldn't see fridge, you would just see magnets. And you can also encourage your customers to purchase stickers and then buy magnet sheets that they can stick the stickers on, cut them out, and kind of turn it into a magnet, And even you can do that with your stickers, so you can actually hand make your own magnets, and you can buy those magnet sheets online quite easily. Let's move into intermediate now. The first one I have on my list is a lens cleaner, so I mean those little microfiber cloths that you can get. They probably could be in the beginner category, and I just don't have any experience with it, so I'm assuming it's more complicated than it is. I think that this is a bit of a niche product, but again, if your business caters to people who might be looking for this sort of thing, it could be a good option. Up next are hand fans, which are secretly a great strategy if you do summer conventions or markets, because guess what people are at summer conventions or markets? Hot. And they're gonna look at your hand fan that you have at a modest and reasonable price and think, I need that right now. And these are really cute. You can get them cut out in specific designs. They can be made of paper or plastic if you prefer one or the other. And again, it's not something I have experience with, so it might be something in the beginner category that I just don't know. Up next, pennants. This is something I don't really see a lot of people doing, so I think it's kind of a fun one to add to this list. You can see one over in the back here, actually, that I bought at Emerald City Comic-Con. I believe that they're generally screen printed, but I wonder if you could do it yourself at home as well. Hi, Flapjack. Yo, hi. Hi, baby. Oh, look who just woke up from his nap. Hi, baby. I looked into doing pennants and it seemed a little bit more complicated than I wanted to commit to at the time, so that's why it's going in intermediate, but I would really hope to make some someday because they're very much my aesthetic. Last in our intermediate category are hand mirrors. Now these could definitely be in beginner if you have your own button press, because I remember pressing hand mirrors in a button press many, many years ago when I used to have a 2.5 inch size one. So again, maybe these are beginner. I've never had them manufactured outside of doing them myself, but I think these are really cute and kind of another underrepresented, underappreciated product. Let's finish off accessories with the advanced category. I'm gonna start with mugs for this one, and the thing is mugs aren't that complicated to have made, but they are rather difficult to ship if you are working online, and difficult to stock if you're selling at conventions because they take up a lot of space. There are ceramic cups, there are enamel cups, and you can also have them made print on demand and shipped off by your print on demand service, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Finally, phone cases. I do love the idea of doing phone cases, but if you aren't doing them print on demand, you are going to have to estimate how many people are going to have like a certain type of phone, so they are a little bit difficult or perhaps unrealistic for a lot of people running their illustration business. But if you do partner with a print on demand service or something like InPrint, maybe that's a fun option. Our next category is gifts. This is kind of an unusual one, but we're gonna go with gifts as the overarching theme of it all. Starting with beginner, greeting cards. I think greeting cards are a lot of fun depending on what your business looks like and what kinds of art that you do. It might not be for everyone, but even I come up with some Christmas cards every year, and I think it can be hard to sell just one greeting card in your shop or at your table, so you kind of have to commit to it as a whole brand. But if you're like me and you run a monthly subscription club that you do paper products in, maybe peppering in some seasonal greeting cards could be fun. I'm also putting temporary tattoos in my beginner category. There aren't a ton of places that do them, but they're a lot of fun. I never have much success selling them either, but they're kind of like a fun giveaway item too, because they're not too expensive to produce. And again, if you have a lot of alternative people, or maybe you do designs that are related to tattooing, really fun option. Let's hop into intermediate now. The first one is a calendar, obviously intermediate because you have to do 12 illustrations plus a cover for that one. And if you wanted to customize the actual dates as well, that's more work for you to do. Often they have to be bought in bulk, but they are usually available within North America, Europe, wherever you are. So we're going with intermediate for that one. Up next is wrapping papers. Again, something that not every business might see demand for, but could be kind of fun, right? Something to consider adding to your seasonal rotation, perhaps, for your holiday season shop drop. And lastly, in the advanced category, we're gonna get quite advanced here for a moment. We're gonna talk about art toys and stuffed toys. I feel that both of these are very challenging because they require you as a 2D illustrator to work in 3D for once. And they often require a lot of back and forth with manufacturers, sometimes in countries that speak other languages than the ones that you're used to speaking. They are not for the faint of heart. They are a long-term production process. They are a high volume item, but they are so cool. Like, I did my Fashion Catch project, which was a resin art doll that I created. I worked with 3D modelers, 3D printers, and resin casters to make these come to life. They were a huge flop of a project because I didn't really know what to do with them once I had the final product in my hand. So if you do want to pursue something like this, don't be like me, be prepared. Do your research and make sure that you go into launching the product with a good marketing campaign. The other advanced category item in gifts that I want to bring up is puzzles, which is a really fun one. Once again, something worth considering crowdfunding before you print and release them. Let's hop back over to the accessories. Let's talk enamel and acrylic products now. When it comes to enamel/metal, you might first think of enamel pins. That might be the only place that your mind goes, and we love enamel pins here. Like, there's so much you can do with them in terms of materials and styles and aesthetics and sizes. But don't forget, you can also make those metal products into keychains. And one very creative alternative is using them to design jewelry. It's actually pretty similar, the application of the enamel pin tech to jewelry. And I know people who've made necklaces, earrings, rings, all sorts of cool stuff. I think there's also bottle openers that you can have made with your metal enamel design at the bottom, and probably a bunch of stuff that I'm just not thinking of right now. So again, if you've had any ideas, if you feel like I've missed anything as I've been talking, leave a comment and spread the news. Let's hop into acrylic products now, and as well as the enamel products, I don't really consider any of these to be like beginner or advanced. They're probably all pretty firmly in intermediate, though enamel pins are one of the first products that I ever made, so maybe they're beginner. Who's to say? The types of acrylic products that you can make are pins, keychains, charms, rulers, standees, pop sockets, hair claws, very in right now, stationery clips, card holders, which I see for like K-pop related things. I don't know, I saw a whole bunch of them at the last anime convention I was at, and washi stands or desktop holders. It's really cool, and I think if you talk to your manufacturer who's making the acrylic products for you, if you really want to think outside the box and come up with a way that hasn't quite been explored before, maybe design a new type of product and start a new wave, I think you'll find that they can accommodate your wild ideas better than you might expect. Okay, I am running out of steam, but we only have one more category to go here. And I think you've probably figured out what we haven't touched yet, and that is apparel, baby. I feel like apparel is the end game for so many different illustrators and designers. And while I am gonna break them up into beginner, intermediate, and advanced, I feel like at the end of the day, they are all at least intermediate, so that's just something to consider as you ideate going forward. But I would say that the two simpler options are your print-on-demand products and doing local screen printing. Print-on-demand is a service that basically does all of the work for you, so you go on their website and you set up a file, you import your images, you add that item to your own shopfront, and whenever your customer makes a purchase on your shopfront, it lets the service know. The service is like, okay, we're gonna print this on demand. They package it up, they send it off to the customer for you, and it's pretty hands-off for you. Obviously, this sounds pretty easy. It is. The only downside is your profit margins are generally pretty low because obviously you aren't doing a lot of the work, so you aren't getting a lot of the profit. With screen printed items, you're generally buying things up front, so you can control the profit margins a little bit more on these kinds of things. And I think screen printed items do often look a little bit better, a little bit cleaner, darker, richer colors. But hey, I think that that's personal preference at the end of the day. I've dabbled in both of these different techniques depending on my specific needs, the time of year, how quickly I need items turned over if I'm selling in person or online. I think both are really viable, so take a look around and see what options you can find that work for you. A couple of slightly intermediate on this scale products that you can do are embroidered hats, so that's like beanies or baseball caps, and socks, which I think is such a fun trend that I've seen a few people doing. I like it because with apparel, there is always the challenge of keeping stock on hand in different sizes, but socks come in like 2, maybe 3 sizes. Plus they're so small, so it's not as big of a deal as some of the more advanced items that we'll talk about. Now, I don't have experience making those myself, but I would really like to someday, so I'll report back when I do. So let's talk about advanced here, and we are talking tippity-toppity advanced. I am talking things like woven blankets, which are such a cool product. Stuff like custom designed pleather goods. You'll see a lot of creators do Kickstarters or crowdfunding for like backpacks and purses and wallets. Again, the sky is the limit. As much time and money as you want to invest into designing something, it can be done. You can literally make button-up t-shirts. You can make bomber jackets. You can make items with all over prints that are made from custom fabric. Like you can go over on Spoonflower and upload your designs, get an order of the fabric, and then hand sew stuff if you have that particular skill. I've been thinking about wanting to make cat toys. I think that would be so much fun. So that's something I'm considering for next year. Just imagine me like hand sewing all of the cat toys. I think I'm gonna have to level up my my skills before getting into that. Editing Tuna here, and I came up with a few more ideas that are obviously not going to be in their respective categories, but I didn't want to miss out on letting you know about them before we finish the video here. The first one I want to talk about is coloring books, which feels like so silly that I forgot to mention it. I think that it might fall under that specialty books category that we talked about earlier, so I won't like give it its own like counter or something. I don't know, we're already over 60, which was my goal. There's luggage tags that I am not exactly sure where people get them made, but this is a good time for me to mention that a lot of products that you can source from overseas in China, you can hook up with manufacturers via Alibaba.com. It's kind of like a marketplace of manufacturers for custom made products, and it's a little bit fussy to get the hang of and learn how to communicate with people overseas, but it's a good jumping off point for doing your own research. Another idea, coasters. You can do paper coasters or more permanent, fancy, laminated, whatever coasters. Tea towels, underrated. There's screen printed, and then I think there's direct to garment options as well. Probably even embroidered ones if you found a manufacturer for it. One that was on my list that I just did not say out loud is mouse pads and desk mats. Such a popular one, great for the convention scene, and especially if you have a really punchy style to your work. And then I feel there's all kind of apparel that I just didn't mention because apparel is just such a huge category. One of the ones I really wanted to mention was knit sweaters and aprons, very cute, and not something that everyone is selling. You'll also notice that I left out kind of anything that does require additional skills, like stuff made with clay, for example, because I didn't want to force you guys to take up a whole new hobby just to add that one to your repertoire. But yeah, I think that's it. Back to previous Tuna. Kind of a weird note to end things on, but there you go. That is it. That is my list of products that you can make as an illustrator. An incredibly non-exhaustive list, so for the third and final time, if I missed anything, if there's anything you've made, if there's anything you've seen, please leave a comment down below because I want to steal your ideas. Basically. I am always looking for new things to try. I think that's my favorite part about the creative journey, about being a creative professional, is looking for ways that I can stretch my abilities and excite myself by putting my art on new products. I hope if any of the ideas that I have listed here in the video have excited or inspired you, you will consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I mostly make vlog type content and me actually making art, but I do try and pepper in these little talking head edutainment style things as often as I can as well. And if I'm not forgetting anything, I think it's time for me to have a hot mug of tea after talking for all of this time. Let's end the video by thanking everyone over on Patreon who is supporting the channel and supporting my business. Each and every one of these people is directly contributing to me being able to make these videos for you, and in return they get all kinds of interesting stuff like digital downloads, extra videos, podcasts, access to my Discord server and my secret shop where you can buy all of my sticker sheets, rewards. And those of whom who are subscribed at the higher tiers at $10 or $25 get mailable rewards to their door every single month. This video happens to be coming out on the last day of the month, so it's a little bit bad timing, but we are ending the alternative theme. If you do want to get these rewards, you better pledge if you are watching this video on launch day by the end of the day, because these rewards are pretty cool, not gonna lie. And of course, a new cycle will be starting tomorrow, and that will be all about my trip to Japan that I am currently on as you are watching this video. I am gonna use my inspiration from my travels to create all kinds of interesting rewards for the $10 and the $25 tier and extra content for my $1 supporters. So please, if you do enjoy what it is that I do here on the channel, consider supporting me over on Patreon. One last plug for my shop where you can find some of the types of products that I've described here today. But that's going to be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay sparkly, don't let the cruel world dull your shine, and I will see you next time. Bye!